Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is very highly requested. It's going to be all about the first steps to becoming a nomad. Now, I have been a full-time digital nomad now for about 3 years. So my husband and I have been traveling full-time. We only spend a few weeks a year back in our home country of England, and we've been working online, running multiple different businesses as we go, and it's been super awesome. It's had its ups and downs, and if you're new to this channel, then you can go back on all the previous videos I've done about the downsides and the travel vlogs. So if you are new, then don't forget to subscribe, and if you're a returning subscriber, then don't forget that I have my Patreon linked down in the description, which is just a place where if you get value from my videos, if you enjoy watching me, if you're here every week and supporting, then it's a place where if you want to, you can donate on a monthly basis to support the journey and to thank me and let me know that you've enjoyed my work. So I wanted this to be a very specific kind of 7-part process. I will include a link to a playlist of all the other videos I've done about how to get started, ideas for jobs you can do, interviews with other nomads, advice specifically for beginners. I've done a ton of content about that, so I will include a playlist so you can go and watch all of those. But I wanted this to be kind of a one-stop shop for what the process is to become a digital nomad. So, in my opinion, step 1 is possibly the most important of all, and you can do it from home kind of right now actually, and that is changing your mindset. So people say to me all the time, I would love to be a nomad, but I can't for these reasons, or I'm too scared, or I don't have any skills, or no one would hire me, or how would I find clients? And there's a lot of fear involved, and I get it. It's really scary, and it can feel like a massive lifestyle change. Like you have to sell all your belongings and move to Thailand, and you can never come back because you've told all your friends that you quit your job, you stormed out, you slapped your boss in the face. People think it's this huge change that is a big scary decision. You need years of preparation, all that kind of thing. And for some people, it's going to be more difficult than others. If you have a house and a mortgage, if you have kids, it might be more difficult if you have elderly parents, anything physical that means you need to be in one place. But it is totally possible for you. But what you need to do is overcome that fear and just make it seem way smaller. I've said this before on my channel, but when I started, I just booked 2 months in Thailand, and I thought, it might just be an extended holiday. I didn't really tell people, to be honest, I didn't really know what a nomad was when I started, but I didn't tell people, I'm never coming back, I'm becoming a full-time traveler. I left my job, but it was kind of the right time to leave anyway. I had some savings, and I just thought, I'm going to go to Thailand, I'm going to chat to people there and see how they're doing this thing. And I had a return flight, so I went in October, and I had a return flight for Christmas to come home and spend Christmas with my family. So as far as anybody knew, it was just like a long holiday. It was backpacking, but without any backpacking because it was all in one place, which I'll come to later. So just see it as that, or you can see it even smaller and just think, I'm just going to make a little bit of money on the side of my job from home. It doesn't need to be this massive change, and it doesn't need to take years of preparations. You don't need to sell all your belongings. I know people who still have a whole home, which they rent out on Airbnb, or a lot of people have storage units. I still have a bedroom at my parents' house. I've never technically moved out, I guess, even though I'm almost 30, because we're sort of in transience, and when we come back to England at some point, hopefully we'll buy a house there, and then I'll want all my stuff. So you don't have to sell everything. Some people do, some people don't. There's no specific way that you have to do this thing. It's just whatever works for you. So try and overcome that mindset block of being afraid or feeling like you can't because you don't have the skills, you don't have the experience, you don't know how to travel, all these things. I actually know someone who I will link in the description box called Marie, who I think didn't have a passport or had never been outside of Europe, and she became a nomad. They just left the country, and I was so inspired by that because that was a lot more scary than what I did. I had already traveled a lot. I thought just a couple of months in Thailand, no big deal. So try and find a way for you that isn't too scary, whether it's a short trip, whether it's a trip with people you know, whether you're going to, maybe you have an aunt who lives in France and you can go and stay with her for a while and see if you can make money online abroad. And try and make it baby steps is basically what I'm trying to say here. Try and break that mindset of fear and limitation and just give yourself a chance. So number 2, I've kind of already touched on here, but that is to do it in small steps. So a really good piece of advice that I got from someone was to try and just make your first $10 without leaving your bedroom. You know, can you make $10 from home? However that may be, but something online, you know, don't go and clean a car. Try and make $10 by making a downloadable for Pinterest that people can pay for, or making Instagram presets, or doing a job for someone like your mum's best friend who needs something typed up. Anything, just try and make $10 from your laptop, like without leaving your room. And then try and make it $100 and just take it from there, one thing at a time. If you can make $10 online, you can be a full-time digital nomad. The leap isn't as big as it sounds, so just take small steps. Number 3 is to sort out your location. You kind of have 2 options here. The option that I took was to just make the leap. Like I said, I just moved to Thailand and that was the end of that. But you don't necessarily have to move. You can work from home. You can do a kind of side hustle on the side of your full-time, like location-based job, and just take it gradually. For me, I wanted to totally move and just go all in, and I already love travel, so I wanted to incorporate the travel as soon as possible. If you're going to move, then I really recommend Nomad List, which is a website that compares countries and cities for all different kind of nomad criteria, like nightlife, co-work spaces, friendliness to women, safety, weather, cost, all these kind of things. It's not perfect, but it will give you a bit of a guide, and I use it a lot just to get a feel for where lots of nomads are. I'd really recommend that you choose a location, especially for your first visit, that has a lot of nomads, because you're going to want to, as quickly as possible, get meeting people, get lots of ideas, get inspired, get connected. It makes a massive difference, because when you become a nomad, you're a little bit of a like alien freak show. When I go back to the UK now and I see friends and family, but also just normal people like the hairdresser or the cashier at the supermarket, I suddenly realized that I've become really weird, and most people don't understand the way that nomads think, the kind of things we talk about. I feel really like douchey for being like, oh yeah, when I was in India, this happened. And then the next minute I'm saying, when I was in Cuba, when I was in America, when I was in Australia, and it seems like you're boasting, but you're not. It's just that your life is full-time travel, and that's like where all your stories are, is from travel, because that's all you do. Or talking about money, or talking about business, all these things that non-nomads find quite weird for you to talk about. So I think it's really good if you can get plugged into a nomad community as soon as possible. They will get you so inspired. They'll really help you progress your business or your income, but they'll also just be your friends. They're going to be your people. Most of my best friends now are nomads because they just get me. And I do have some really good friends who aren't nomads, but it's more difficult to meet people now in my adult life who I really connect with, who aren't nomads. They tend to be my people. So I try and choose a location which has a lot of nomads, which Nomad List is really good for. But I also would recommend that for your first trip, you try and stay a long time, like 2 or 3 months, because most people, when they start out being a nomad, they are like overwhelmed by the opportunity to travel, and they want to spend a week or 2 weeks in each place. They want to see all of Europe, and they forget that you're not backpacking, you're not traveling, you're not on holiday, you're working and you're building a new life for yourself. So yes, as a nomad, you can travel quickly, and I know some people who do, but to give yourself the best chance when you're first starting out, I would really, really recommend you book one place, a nomad hotspot. For me, that was Chiang Mai, but for you, that might be Bali, Budapest, Mexico, Spain. There's a lot of popular nomad places, but I would recommend you try and stay for 2, maybe 3 months. And then once you arrive, get really stuck in really fast, because you'll think, I have 3 months, that's so long. You know, I can spend the first couple of weeks just sorting out my apartment and my phone contract. And I would say, on day one, you know, you might need to sleep. But on day two, sort out your phone contract, join a co-workspace and go along to a meetup and message people on Instagram, maybe before you even arrive, and say, I'm coming next week. Do you want to hang out? Like, queue things up, because I promise you, 2 or 3 months goes like this, and before you know it, your time will be up, or someone who you really wanted to meet, you meet them in the final couple of weeks, or they're just leaving and you don't get as much time together as you'd hoped. So try and, as quickly as possible, be meeting with people, connecting with people, and hearing all about how they became nomads, how they earn their income, all their tips, their favorite locations. You can just drain them for knowledge, and it's an absolute goldmine. And back to my original idea of, if you don't want to just make the leap, then you can work from home. I would recommend you go into your calendar right now and you block out a bunch of time for doing your work from home stuff, because I promise you, life will get in the way. And if it means you have to give something up, like you have to give up your weekly piano lesson, then give that up and block that hour out as like nomad time. Or if you do it on Saturdays or Sundays or Wednesday evenings or whatever it takes, I think you need to put it in your calendar in advance. So go ahead now into your calendar and block out the next 2 or 3 months of Sunday afternoons, and say to yourself, this is my nomad development time, and this is where I'm building, you know, if you need to make it your laptop background, this amazing paradise beach, or whatever your goals are. You need to block out time to do that. Otherwise, before you know it, it will have been a year and you'll be no closer to being a nomad, and you'll be no closer to achieving those dreams that you have. So do not let them pass you by. Okay, number 4 is about money. Either you need to have some savings. For me, I had several £1,000s, but I would say you need probably £2,000 or £3,000 to be able to go somewhere like Thailand. It's very cheap there. You can definitely live off $1,000 a month, but you could probably live off less if you were being like really cost conscious and you lived a bit out of the city or whatever. But I would say have a few £1,000s or a few $1,000s, so that if you need to, you can book a flight home, so that you can stay for several months without an income. In theory and in practice, for me, the income will come very quickly, but just for your own like mental health, it's nice to know that you have some stability because you have savings. Or if you don't have savings, then you should have an income already. So before you go, you should be working part-time online as a side hustle, or try and convince your boss to let you go remote. If your boss will let you work from home, I know a lot of people who have convinced their boss to let them work from abroad, as long as you're doing the work, and you know, maybe you don't need to be there on the exact hours, but if you do need to be there 9 to 5, then you can stay in Europe to make sure that you're on the 9 to 5 time zone. There are solutions. So either have your full-time job remote so that you have an income, or have already built up a side hustle so that you have a income, even if it's not enough to sustain you, you have something by the time you actually move. Or have savings. Any of those will work, but please be money conscious. Please don't just book a flight to Thailand and not be able to afford to fly home again. Although, I mean, it would really motivate you. And I know people who've done that, but I don't think I could tell you to do that with a clear conscience. Number 5 is sorting out accommodation. I have done a whole video about how to choose accommodation, but I would recommend, especially in the beginning, just using Airbnb. It's not always the cheapest, but it's so easy because you can just book for the exact period of time that you need. If you're trying to book an apartment, then sometimes you have to do 6 months, or you need a deposit, or it's all much more complicated. In Chiang Mai, you can just walk into the big apartment block condos and ask them, and they'll let you stay kind of from today for 6 weeks. But in most places in the world, that's very difficult. So I would say use Airbnb. I will include a link in the description, which gets you a discount and gets me a bit of payback, which would be awesome. And I really, really love Airbnb. We're in one right now, and we stay in Airbnbs 99% of the time. They're always very easy. It means that you're in a proper apartment with like a kitchen and a washing machine and all that kind of stuff, rather than a hotel where you can't cook for yourself and you don't have that much flexibility. So I really rate Airbnb. That's great for accommodation. And also you will need some kind of nice cheap bank card. If you're British, I really recommend Revolut, which I will have a link to in the description box. Possibly TransferWise might also be good for you if you need to send big amounts of money abroad, like if you're paying your rent, that's a really cheap way to send it rather than sending it from your personal bank account. N26 is also really good. I again have a whole video about like travel banks. N26 is good, and I think you can get it whichever nationality you are. I think Revolut you have to be British or at least have a British address that you can use. If you're American, I know that Charles Schwab is really good and does free withdrawals all over the world, I believe, but you don't want to get caught up on paying unnecessary fees like that, so make sure that you have a good bank card. And for booking flights, I really recommend either Skyscanner or Google Flights. There's a bunch of websites out there about flight hacking, so if that's something you want to do, you can, but don't get so hung up on it that it delays your trip. You don't need a crazy bargain. You can just get a flight that has a stopover and ends up cheap, and in the grand scheme of things, you just need to get started, I promise you. Number 6 is all about learning. The thing that most people do wrong that I see is that they're learning too slowly. They're trying things for too long. I mean, this could be a whole video in itself, but just try things quickly. Just say yes to opportunities. If someone asks if you can design them a logo, you can say, I haven't done that before, but I would really love to give it a try. Charge them for it. Just say, you know, it'll only be $50, but yes, I will make you a logo. I'll give it a go. And then the next day when someone says, can you write me an article? Be like, yeah, sure, I'll write you an article. Let me know what you want. It'll be cheap. And start charging for things. Start trying out different jobs. In my first year as a nomad, I don't even know how many jobs I did, but just try things out. So don't spend a long time building up something really big and it needs pre-launch and all this stuff. Just get started. You will learn so much along the way. So start things quickly and quit things quickly. If you really hate logo design, then just stop doing it. Or if you've started a business but it's really not making any money, then don't like labor it too much. Don't feel like you're too far in. Just drop that one and try something else. Your first few months or maybe even years as a nomad, you're just trying a ton of different things. Even now I'm doing multiple different things, and we start things and drop things pretty quickly. So just try and learn from people. Try different things out, say yes to opportunities, even if you're not 100% sure how you're going to do it. You know, you don't need to lie to people. You can just say, I'm new to this, but I would love to give it a go. Just make it really cheap so you can get paid to learn. I promise you, if you try enough different things, you'll find something that is perfect for you, you love, and makes money. And finally, number 7 is to have a kind of assessment every so often and say to yourself, do I like this? Am I happy? Is there anything I want to change? There is absolutely no shame in going back home, going back to your home country. Like I said, I had a return flight, and at first you worry, I'm going to tell everyone that I'm becoming a nomad, and then if I move back home, then it's like I failed, it's this big shame, everyone's going to judge me. And the truth is, no offense, no one cares, no one will notice. People will be like, oh, you're back. You'll be like, yeah. You know, people aren't going to be gossiping about you behind your back like, oh, she made such a big deal about leaving and now she's back again. You know, you're not the center of the world. So try and let that anxiety go. People have got their own lives going on. They're too busy thinking about themselves. So don't worry about having to do a U-turn and come back. You 99% won't have to because you're going to freaking love being a nomad, but don't let that hold you back. If you want to go back home, or if you want to do something most nomads aren't doing, I think people can feel a lot of anxiety about being a nomad and not fitting in with the label because they're traveling too fast or too slow, or they have lots of stuff or they have no stuff. And just don't worry about any of that. Just regularly sit down and think, am I happy? Do I want to change things? You know, maybe for you, it's really important that you are with friends more often. So you don't want to hop around as much. You want to build stronger relationships, or you want to travel as a group. There's so many different things that you might want to do differently to other people, and that is absolutely fine. So definitely take time to assess how things are going, look at the downsides, look at the upsides, and work out what you want to do next. And that might just be which countries do you want to go to next, which is absolutely fine too. So I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you feel empowered to give it a try and you don't feel like it needs to be this huge, scary decision. I really want this channel to be a source of inspiration to you, but also just a super practical advice and encouragement. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for coming back if you are a regular. Have an amazing week, everyone, and I'll see you in the next week. Bye.